Until we get Sunday.
Maybe in the morning. That'd be nice. Do the morning outside. Yeah. Well, I've been told that
That's why I like living here. I just could not live without that sound. I would never live on the other side. I mean, I would sit over there, but
it's gray a lot.
not always. It's gray a lot. I can't.
It's not the same as where I live.
And it takes till like 11 for like it to burn off all the clouds. You know, in the morning. It's like, yeah. I like waking up at 4 a.m. and the sun's over there.
Yeah.
I would never live there.
Do not put them in jackets.
And
get started in about a minute.
Right now, 9 o'clock.
I just
I think we'll go ahead and get started.
Of course.
So now what we want to be doing is taking this framework, this philosophical approach, and start to drill down into how you actually use the resources that we're providing. And so what we want to do is to initially just give you the menu of what we are equipping you with today. And so the first is the What I Wish I Knew at 18 book. And that's actually where our business began. We didn't have a full-blown curriculum from the very beginning. But the What I Wish I Knew at 18 book is what your students will initially read ahead of the lesson. Every nugget, every lesson has about 1 to 2 pages of text. So what we're not doing is we're not giving them 15 pages of reading before. What I did, and boy, I'll tell you, I was very intentional when I wrote this book. I didn't want to say anything more than needed to be said. And so there's 109 life success pointers in the book. We don't expect you to go through all of them. But for the students to be fully prepared for the lesson that they will have, they will be asked to read that particular lesson from the book. Again, 1 to 2 pages long. Some of it's even a half page. Sometimes it's a little bit longer than that. But anyway, that's what we call the text book for the curriculum. The second one is our student guide. And so you've just gotten a flavor of that by going through this definition of success lesson. The student guide is the companion. So the typical school that orders our full curriculum will get the book and the student guide. And the student guide has probably 75% of the pointers that are in the What I Wish I Knew at 18 book. So we don't have a lesson for every single pointer in the book. What we did was we selected the ones because we figured it was going to be used typically in a semester-long type of a course. Obviously, there are exceptions to that. But we wanted to pick out the lessons that we thought were A, the most important, and B, that really lent themselves to group discussion, because we want this course to be one where the students are interacting with each other and with the teachers. This is not a one-way lecture thing where you're going to have to feel, ultra prepared to do a 50-minute lesson. It's not like that. Everything is very interactive, and I've been in the classroom teaching lessons, and so has Arlen. The students love that middle section, that discuss section, because there are role plays, there are interesting questions, they learn from each other, and I think those are the reasons why the content sticks. The third component is our What I Wish I Knew at 18 Leader's Guide. You'll see in the training manual how to access this. But for the purpose of the Leader's Guide, it just gives some extra thoughts from the author of additional ways to bring this course alive in the lives of the students. So we go through every lesson and it's like, okay, Arlen, do we have anything additional to what was in that student guide lesson that we want to impart? And we also give you some additional tips of, again, how to make this come alive. It is a free downloadable PDF on our website. You'll have the link right in your training manual to access that, and then you go ahead and print it off, and you'll want to have that as a part of your overall.
At the middle school.
Oh, and by the way, some of you may be involved at the middle school level, and to that extent, we have a middle school version of our Leader's Guide as well. And what we've done is we've gone through every lesson to say, would we change anything about this lesson if it was for middle school? And in a lot of cases, the answer was no, but in some cases, the answer was yes. And in some cases, we just even suggest probably not ready for middle school. So spend your time elsewhere, because obviously some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about is probably going to stick more if they hear it in the junior and senior year when they're a little bit more mature and that transition is more immediate to them. So anyway, we have on our website the Leader's Guide. The next component is the Where Are You Going Guide. And so each of you, and we're going to go through this a little bit more in detail. So for now, I'm just giving you kind of a teaser. The Where Are You Going Guide comes free from Washington State. This is a phenomenal resource. It's especially in the area of career exploration. So we're gonna, when we get to that a little bit later, we'll talk about how this guide can really be a great resource for you. You can order these free from the state, and they ship right away. So I have obviously several extra ones that I brought along, but one of your top priorities will be to order a classroom set. Or, if you would rather do the online version, careerbridge.wa.gov has this. So you'll have the choice. If you want to use the printed version, all you'll have to do is call Olympia and they will send you your classroom quantity, and it's free. Or you'll go on CareerBridge. It basically has similar content, a little bit more, and you'll have that choice. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But this, especially for the career exploration phase, is going to be a really helpful tool. And we'll go through this in a little more detail later. The personal balance sheet assignment that we talked about earlier, how do we identify those assets and those constraints? That is a free downloadable resource from our website. In the training manual, we give you the link to that, and you want to go ahead and download that. And that assignment is a fully complete assignment. It's pretty long, but I would just say, rather than feeling like you have to do it, in an immediate for a week, you may want to have the students do it over the course of their course. So anyway, but that will be an important part of the self-awareness, building that hope, that vision, that belief in myself phase that is so important before we get into some of this other area. The training manual, which again, we're going to go through a little bit later in much more detail. If you don't like the color that you have, we've got the rainbow here. We've got black, we've got purple, we've got all kinds of colors. We've got a lot of extras here. So this manual we put together specifically for the JWG program. And again, we'll go through it in more detail, but it really walks you through how to implement this program, the different modules, the different lessons that you would use to train the leadership skills or the career skills. And then the final thing, we have a DVD, and I shared with Mary that we'd be willing to donate 20 of our How to Be an MVP employee DVDs. We may have more than 20 people here, so I'm not going to be the one to draw who gets the 20, but we have 20 freebies. This is that DVD of the talk that I gave in Appleton, Wisconsin, that went over the 4 different things. Might be a really interesting thing for your students. And so we've got 20 in case we run out here. They are available for sale. So just email me on that. But these are the different resources that we are basically offering as a part of the curriculum. And the rest of the day, we're going to be spending the time on how to actually make all of this happen. Okay, so we already went through the Don't Define Success by Rich's sample lesson, just to give you a little bit of flavor. What we're going to do now is Arlen's going to walk you through some aspects of our What I Wish I Knew at 18 resources.
Am I on, or do I turn myself off? I was afraid you were going to hear everything I was saying. I think you might have. Okay, there we go. I'm on again. These are just some of the themes that you'll find in What I Wish I Knew at 18. We'll start with the book. So this is the tool that I wish that I had when I started in youth mentoring years ago. And it serves as the text for the Leadership and Life Skills course, but it's also a standalone book. And as Jen mentioned, each of the 109 success pointers is written in a nugget form. It's quite short and really easily readable and very conversational. So even if your students aren't big readers or not avid readers or maybe even struggle with that, it's something that even someone can help them with because they're quite short. And at the end of every single one, like for example, this one is adversity is a part of life. You've got a short reading, and at the end is just a short little discussion question. So again, it serves as a text, and you'll see in the Leadership and Life Skills course, in the student guide, that it gives a recommended reading in the book before you go into that unit, but it also serves as a great standalone. So if you've got programs where you've just got one-on-one, and you want to just have something that's a great discussion starter, this works great. So, and it makes a great graduation gift, all kinds of things. We've had, we'll talk about our parenting book in a little bit, but it works in tandem with our parenting book, so you can have families go through it together where the teens are doing What I Wish I Knew at 18 and the parents are doing our parenting book, and you can do some work with families at the same time.
Can I just make one little observation on this? One of the things that we've been so gratified by with What I Wish I Knew at 18 is who are the people that are endorsing it. And business leaders love this book because they see what they need in the workforce. So back to making that connection with the students to help this become something that they really take to mind and heart. I think the fact that you've got business leaders, you've got university presidents, you've got people in a host of different career arenas who are lauding this book, and I think it's because it really has universal value, and if they take this to mind and heart, they will succeed. I mean,
and most adults that read this book will come back to us and say, I learned so much, or I was reminded when I started working on this book as the editor. I served as the co-author on the curriculum, but I was the editor on this book. There were so many things that I was either learned or was reminded of, either learned for the first time or was reminded of. So just tons of life wisdom in this book. So before I talk about the student guide, oh, did I miss anything important here? Comprehensive vision for a successful launch, personal leadership, life skills. I think we said all this already. I just want to get a little feel for what your settings are, just so maybe I can kind of custom tailor some of this for you. Who would be using this in a classroom situation where you're actually teaching a class, where you're going to teach it as a course? Okay, several. How many of you I was just chatting with Taryn on break, and she's a case manager with Open Doors, and she's got kids that are coming through that she's giving individualized attention to. Is anyone in that situation where you've got more of a one-on-one mentoring relationship with kids? And then who are overseeing maybe the people who would be implementing teaching teachers? So we've got several of those too. The course, it does not need to be taught sequentially. So it is set up, there's 9 units in it, and if you did 2 units, 2 weeks per unit, you could spread it out over an entire semester. So you've got a quarter or a semester's worth of curriculum if you went sequentially through it. But it doesn't need to be less sequential. As I mentioned earlier, the lessons are all one-off. So you can pick and choose. If you are in a program where you've got like a student advisory, or you're meeting one-on-one, or you're meeting irregularly with students, you could just go through and pick out lessons. The training manual here goes through thematically, which is a really great way to go through it. Den's going to go through how we go through it on the leadership themes, which is a wonderful way to use the curriculum. But the point is that it's extremely adaptable and versatile. We have said it's a 9 or 18-week program. Den talked about the free downloadable reader's guide, a lot of flexibility. I have friends who are teaching in different arenas. I don't know if everybody's in the same arena, but for example, I have a friend who's the AP Calculus teacher at Gig Harbor High School, and she uses this every Wednesday, and she has for years since we came out with it, because the things that we're talking about, she feels sheet that they can do, students can do at the beginning of that unit, where they look through what they're going to be covering after they read the chapter in the book, and they identify what do they think that they just read, which things are the most important in life. I'm on 81, it might be 83.
We don't have that.
Oh, yours is at the back. Oh, I
Yeah,
need
they
to
do.
use theirs. Can I have one of theirs?
There's one right there.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm on page 82. So we've got the overview right there. Then we've got the prepare, which is what chapter you read and what I wish I knew at 18. And then we hop into the first pointer. And as I mentioned earlier, you'll always have consider, discuss, apply. Consider is what you do if you're doing it in a classroom situation, what you do with the class. Discuss, they get broken up into small groups, and they may be doing role plays, they may be doing practicing public speaking, they may be doing self-assessments, they may be doing inventories, but they're talking, they're interacting, they're up, they're moving around, they're having some kind of interaction. And then on apply is always something that they're going to take away with them where they have to apply what they learned that day. So that's what the student guide looks like. Where did I put the... Oh, thank you. Did the computer go dead? Is that what that noise was?
Get timed out, maybe?
Well, it says your battery is running low.
Oh, that's okay.
You might want to plug in your PC. So Mary, do we know how to plug in the PC?
Okay, I'll keep backing. So,
You don't have a power cord?
the only other thing I would want to say about the course is that it doesn't just target the actual job skills, but as we've mentioned, it targets those developmental assets to help lay that foundation for what they need to succeed in the job field and what they need to sustain those jobs in the job field. So the next thing we're going to go over is a personal balance sheet. And while they're kind of fiddling around with the computer, one thing we haven't mentioned is our website has a ton of resources on it. If you go to lifesmartpublishing.com, it will give you the option of the What I Wish I Knew at 18 or Parenting for the Launch or our blog. And if you hop on the What I Wish I Knew at 18 site, which is DennisTratine.com, there's a survey that you can give your students before you take the course, a before and after survey. There's all kinds of articles, there's all kinds of resources, so it's a real wealth of information. So including our personal balance sheet. So I'm going to throw to Dennis, who's going to talk about that.
Okay. It seems to be frozen.
Oh.
Oh, there we go.
How many slides is that?
That's slider you guys on.
It should say personal balance sheet.
There we go.
Yep,
There we go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, that was nice.
There we go.
That's my grade.
Okay, so remember the personal balance sheet is our main tool. There are others out there that help build this self-awareness, this sense of what are my assets and what are my strengths. But we've developed a tool, and in fact, it really came out of so many conversations with students who really, again, don't have this sense of, you know, who they are, what they have to offer at this critical time. So we developed the personal balance sheet to help kind of reveal that to them. And so on our website, again, it's mentioned in the training manual, you'll have the students go through a self-assessment process, and a key part of the personal balance sheet is getting the input from other people. So instead of just the student getting, you know, the value from doing their own self-assessment, they will be interviewing other people in their lives who know them well, have their best interests at heart. that can be family members, it can be coaches, it could be pastors, it could be, I mean, any number of different people, other relatives who have an ability to offer their insights. And the hope out of this exercise is that the students come to that realization that they are filled with great things to offer this world. And I think armed and equipped with that knowledge about themselves, they're going to make better decisions about their career and have a great life vision.
Do you, with that balance sheet, so, because obviously I haven't seen it, so you're talking about they're going to go talk to other people that may know them. Do you have a document already created for that they could use? Oh, perfect, because I did not want to have to create.
No, it's all there. I hope one thing that you'll get from us is we really want to be complete in our resourcing, and so it started much smaller scale than it is today, but there's like a sample form that's in there, because what we want the student to do is to go around and interview people about themselves, and it gives parents especially a wonderful opportunity to affirm their kids. Now, not every kid has a great support system in their family, but boy, the value and the insights that come from other people is enormous, and so we definitely have that as a part of the program. So anyway, in addition though to having them go through an assessment of their assets, we also have them go through what are called constraints, and this was something Arlen alluded to earlier. We don't call them liabilities like a business would. We call them constraints. Think of them as things holding them back from fully being able to utilize their assets. And so in those interviews and in those self-assessments, they will have an opportunity to ask other people questions of, okay, knowing me as you know me, what are some areas where you could see me grow in that would really help me? Are there some constraints? And sometimes it might just be bad social habits. It could be something really minor, but this is not all just saying only the good stuff. This is a personal growth exercise, and one of the things we've identified certainly is a critical issue for students is getting that constructive feedback and putting it to use rather than fearing feedback. And this tool reinforces that point, but it's in an assignment of love. I mean, really that opportunity to really understand themselves in better ways. So we think it's a very inspirational type of thing, and I think their students are really going to learn some pretty amazing things about themselves. So Arlen, do we want to do another lesson?
Yes, we do. Sweet. Okay, so we are going to do the lesson on learning to persuasively market yourself. In this one, it's on page 89, so I'm just going to see where it is. 90. It's on page 90 in yours. Learn to persuasively market yourself. Likability during the interview is huge. So, and I like the opening question in this one. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just go through life minding our own business and have others automatically recognize our greatness by offering us jobs, scholarships, promotions, complete with big bucks and the like? Unfortunately, it doesn't usually work out that way. Has anybody had that experience? Somebody's walked up to you and says, "You are amazing. I want you to work for me, and I'm going to give you six-figure income." It doesn't work that way. In order to land that perfect job and win that prized promotion over others, you've got to persuade people that you are the answer to what they need or are looking for. As pointed out earlier, much of life is a competition, and you need to persuasively market yourself in order to stay competitive. You need to become an effective salesperson of you. So do you see why it's so important that we have a sense of awareness of what our assets are and what we bring to the table? Because when we get seated for a job interview, someone's going to ask us to sell ourselves. And we want to have some answers to their questions when they say, "Why should I hire you?" So what we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to persuasively market ourselves, and we're going to practice a job interview so that when we sit down and we get those questions, we're not just answering factual questions, we're going to learn how to market ourselves. So I'm at the top of page probably 91 in yours Here are some pointers to help get you started in learning to persuasively market yourself. So let's just kind of go around. Let's just go around the outside of the room, and we're going to take turns reading one bullet point. So I'm going to start with you.
Consider how your assets address the prospective employee's needs. Think of yourself as a solution to their problem.
Perfect.
Build a compelling resume that highlights your strongest accomplishments and competitive advantages.
Network with as many people as you can to receive endorsements and inside connections.
During interviews, be personable, confident, but not arrogant. Look your interviewer in the eye, repeat their name, shake their hand firmly, listen intently, come prepared with questions, show an interest in the company and the job, ask for a business card, promptly send a thank you note, exhibit confident body language, be yourself, and smile.
Thank you.
Remember that the first 30 seconds of a job interview will make or break your chances of landing the job. They may not get you the offer, but they will certainly kill your chances if you don't make a strong first impression. Get off to the right start by being friendly, positive, enthusiastic, humble, relaxed, and natural. Be professional in your appearance and in your grammar.
Thank you. So the first how many seconds of an interview? 30 seconds. We've got 30 seconds to make a great first impression.
It's like walking through the door.
That's okay. So that's great. So assuming that it's walking through the door is where we make an impression, what do we want to be mindful of? Just shout out some answers. What we want to be mindful of? Our posture, which means we stand up straight. What else?
Forward.
Smiling.
Manners.
No,
For
grab
instance,
in your mouth.
Yes,
I
share
have
some.
a video that I show my students on interviewing techniques, and it shows the good and bad. And it shows this one boy, he comes in and he shakes the hand of the woman manager just fine, and they get ready for the interview. Well, he sits down first before she does. And most of my students don't understand that, so I have to stop the video and say, what's wrong with that, you know?
Excellent.
Well, he's sitting down first before she does, and that's a sign of disrespect.
And how do you know if someone doesn't tell you? Right.
Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Good supplement. Where do you get that video? Is it something that's available that you can share the website with?
I bought it
There's one
about 8 or 9 years ago.
I bet you can do
There's YouTube.
YouTube has some great how not to do
500 million how to build.
Yes, there you go. What do we do without YouTube?
I don't know. I use
Did you have a thought?
Oh, just, there's a series of videos under the heading Skills to Pay Bills that are really good for all these different classes. I show them to all my students.
Yeah.
I actually demonstrate. They get a kick out of it. I do kind of, like I'm a little drama nut sometimes. So I will like role play a couple different things.
Well,
and then
I'm
I'll make
so
them
glad you said
point
that
out.
because I was just going to ask for volunteers. So you just volunteered. Can I have one other person? What's your name?
Lori.
Lori. Can I have one other person who would volunteer to role play with Lori a job interview? Who's going to be brave?
I don't bite. I'll just spit out my
Okay,
gum.
Lori, pick somebody.
Bobby?
Oh, no.
Okay, so let's get 2 chairs up here, and we're going to set up an interview with Lori and Bobby.
So who's going to do what?
You guys can pick.
Can I be the person getting interviewed?
You want to be the person being interviewed?
Boy, that means I have to be like super professional.
Perfect, thank you.
You can do that.
Okay, so we've got some directions in here. I'm going to read our directions. Everyone in the group, so you guys are going to start, gets a chance to play the role of either the interviewer or the interviewee, preferably both if we have enough time. So you're going to choose from the questions on page 174 if you've read it, but they're also listed below. It's okay, we got them here on in the student
Oh, so
guide.
there's just
Oh yeah,
questions.
grab your student guide. Page 91.
They're going to ask that first question, you know it's going to be tell us about yourself.
That's right, they are. You're right. So each candidate should be required to answer 3 to 5 questions from the list, depending on the time.
We're not
Let's
gonna
just
have
do
to
a couple.
yeah,
No, do a couple. Just do a couple. Okay.
Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I'm coming in.
Okay.
There will be
Oh, yes, Ms. Smith, my 5 o'clock is here. Okay, thank you very much.
You work till 5,
Yeah. Oh, how do you do? My name is Mr. Smith.
Hi. My name's Lori. I'm here for, what, 5? Yeah, I think 5.
Yes, it was 5. Quite promptly. I see that you're about 5 minutes late. Okay, we'll begin. Okay. So, Lori?
Yes.
Can you please tell me something about yourself?
My parents say I'm kind of a handful. I'm pretending there's a table here. But I have lots of energy.
So I take it that this is your resume that you have here. It says that you just completed a bachelor's degree in business administration. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I did that because my parents told me I had to do it because I had to get something that made a difference. You know,
could you expound on that, Lori? Make a difference.
Well, I really just kind of wanted to be an artist, and they said I was never going to get a job as an artist, so that I probably should just go get a business degree. But I don't care about business. I just want to be an artist.
Well, this position is really not for an artist.
I know, but they told me I had to come.
Who exactly told you that?
My parents. They said I had to get out of the house and get a job.
Okay, well, even though I'm not legally supposed to ask you this, I'm assuming that you're like in your mid-20s? So your parents are telling you that you now have to go to work. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so did you read about our company? Where exactly did you find out about us, other than from Mom and Dad?
I'm going to interrupt you. So now I want you to do it again.
So this is where, though, I make the kids go down, and I make them write down everything that shouldn't have happened, so that when because they have to do mock interviews and grade each other.
Exactly. So what?
Exactly.
Before she does it again, what are some things that you would call out if these were students and you guys are students? What are some things that she needs to do differently the next time?
Promptness.
Promptness.
Learn how to shake a hand. Handshake.
Mortician.
Don't be so weird, Mom.
Don't mention your mom.
Never say this is not what you want to do.
Don't say this isn't what you want to do. What else?
Sit up straight.
Sit up straight. Awesome.
Walking confident.
Really has a swagger when you're swaying or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and I was trying to pretend there's a table because I've told the kids, if there's a table between you, well, don't go into their space. Sit up straight, because when we were doing it, it's amazing how many of them just laying right in there. I hope your breath doesn't smell good.
Or the girls are put away too.
Yes, exactly.
Talk about the girls.
Call that out. Thank you.
Okay, are you ready?
Okay, let's see how it should be done.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Oh, Mrs. Smith. Oh, I see that my 5 o'clock is here. 1:45. They're here already? Well, I think I'll just start the interview. Let's begin. Okay. Hi, how do you do? My name is Mr. Smith.
Hi, I'm Miss Lori Beaver, and I thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really look forward to
very
this.
nice. Take a seat.
Oh, thank you.
So, Miss Beaver, I have your resume here before me. It looks like you have quite a sterling accomplishments for as young as you are. And it looks like that you have got, I also have your college transcript here. Very nice. You have been very busy. Excellent. So you are interested in the position at our company as an entry-level controller.
Yes.
So do you have any knowledge or background about that position?
Well, actually, I've done a little bit of research on your company, and I was really excited when I saw how much growth is going on in your company. I'd like to work internationally, and I see that you're opening up branches internationally.
Yes, we are. We're really expanding. We've been very successful. Very good. Okay, so tell me, what are the things that you are really passionate about in life, along with your work, and what about your home?
Just being of service, making a difference. And I feel with the qualifications that I have and the qualifications that you're looking for with your position you have open, that I really could fit very well with you and with what I value.
Okay, very good. What are your goals for your career?
Well, again, to make a difference. I love to learn. I'm excited about new opportunities. So for me, just to be able to grow in the company, but also stay within my values and the values of my home life too.
I see, very good. Awesome. Okay, I'll interrupt you there.
Oh, good.
Good job. That's amazing. You guys did good job. If you ever need a second career, you can find it yourself. So I was going to do another sample lesson, but I think just in the interest of time, I won't. I was going to do the time is precious, use it wisely, because it's a good example of an assessment where the kids go through and they do a time management inventory, and they have to think about, how do I use my time? Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? And then they have to add it up at the end, and then it's going to give them a report. You're a so-so manager of time, you're a great manager of time. But sometimes it's good to have that objective assessment to go, maybe I need to clean up my act a little bit. And plus, it's one of those lessons that changes things up a little bit, just so you can get a little different flavor of the different kinds of lessons that we've got in there. So there's all different kinds. But Den's going to come up now, and he's going to go over the training manual that he's developed to use this as on a thematic. Chantel's getting towards the end of the day. Thematic model.
Great. So one of the things that I wanted to mention before getting into the training manual is that last lesson is so critical, and it's so wonderful because you can show exactly what to do and what not to do. Students need to understand body language. There's a manners component to it. There's also understanding nonverbal cues. So having students do role plays where they're in charge, they're the interviewer, and here's the criteria that they're looking for. We always say put the student in the leadership position. They're the hiring manager, because we want to have them think of themselves in an aspirational way. And there's a lot of positive and negative nonverbal cues. So make sure they understand what people look like facially when they're bored. How is their body language when they're bored? Okay, how is it when they're engaged? And boy, everything is in the eyes. I always tell students, boy, look at their eyes and look at their mouth. Are they smiling? Their eyes will tell you everything true. And so these just give great lessons. I taught a course at the school I was telling you about, and the course was called Money Masters. One of the things that I did, and I would really encourage all of you to do this, is I devoted a class session to first impressions. And we talked about what makes a good first impression, what makes a bad first impression, and then I individually went to each student. And I had the other students kind of, working on their own stuff, and I just, one by one, I went down until they gave me the perfect first impression. And I gave them little feedback, like, okay, work the hand a little firmer. Okay, eyes, your countenance, all of these things are important. What is confident friendliness? What does that even look like? And it was interesting, at the end of the class year, I asked the students for a survey of what they learned the most about. And the one lesson that made the biggest impression was that lesson. I thought it was so interesting because, again, and nowadays with how casual the younger generation is, they're in for a world of hurt until they understand how the more professional adult world looks like. And so they need to have a mind shift about that. And one of the things that I always share with students is that from this point forward, now that you know how to make a great first impression, I want you to view every adult you will meet from here on as potentially the most important person they will ever meet. They need to be on their A+ game, because out of that may come a relationship, and out of that relationship may come a reference or an inside track into that job. It happens all the time. So one of the things we talk about, our kids, we collectively 2 different families. Our kids just knock this relational thing out of the park because they know how to make that first impression, and they view every adult as, you never know, might be a future boss.
Run them into them or need them or
exactly.
You never know. So it is a mind shift. Maybe they've been a little casual before. We probably all would have been if we hadn't learned some of these things. But this will help them get into the game. Interesting. The most important lesson of all that I taught. I was shocked because I gave him all this financial stuff and all this career stuff. I was like, I was like, okay, there it is. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go over a couple of the other resources that are really critical for this. And so in your pamphlets, we put together a training manual, and you'll see a warm fuzzy letter from Arlen Mead. And then you'll see some reinforcement of some of what we talked about earlier regarding the pathway to destiny, including that diagram and so forth. And then on page 4, you will see the curricular resources menu. And so what we do again, we go back to that exhibit I just put up a few slides ago and kind of just touch a little bit on each one of them, but then also show you the links of where you can find these other items. So like for example, the third one where it's the What I Wish I Knew Teen Leaders Guide, that's how you will find that particular document. And again, there's a middle school version of that as well. The next one, which is probably a little more optional, but it might be worth your looking at, is a What I Wish I Knew at 18 course overview. Because this is a little more career focused than some of the broader application work that the various schools are using, this may or may not be as relevant, but I would encourage you to take a look at it as well, because it gives a really nice overview perspective. The next area, you'll see the self-discovery assignment, your personal balance sheet, along with the link of where you can access that on our website. And you print it off, and there you have it. It is a little bit long in terms of page numbers, but because it's an interview form and it's an assessment, there's a lot of blank spaces, so don't get spooked when you see how many pages it takes to print out. It's and you know, and the other thing, I would encourage you to use this yourself. I guarantee you will learn things about yourself by doing this yourself, and maybe interviewing some friends or some, you know, whoever it is in your family that if you'd like to get a little feedback on what others see as your strengths. This isn't just for the teen young adult. This is for everyone, just the same way that this book is. So anyway, but this assignment has all the information your students would need. And what we really want to do is get them to think they are a lot more valuable than they ever realize. Okay, how to be an MVP employee, as I mentioned, we've got 20 carved out here, and so that's available, but if we run out, it's also available at the store. We also have a pre and post course survey on our website. So one of the things that you may want to do is access that particular link, and I think it's maybe just a 2-page document with 1 to 5 ranked questions, and it's kind of giving the before and after. How did I maybe feel before the course, and how do I feel after now that I've learned these different types of things? So you're obviously welcome to use that. We also have our blog, Time for Excellence, which once we collect your forms, the email addresses on your note cards, we will automatically get you input into that. But we encourage you to share this with others. This blog it's like 3+ years of weekly blogs, so it is filled with just great stories and great topics. Some of it's a little bit more message to the students, sometimes to parents, sometimes to teachers, but I guarantee you'll read this, and it's usually just a 1-page blog from us. You will find value in that, not only with your students, but personally as well. I promise you on that. And then the other resource suggestions included, I mentioned the primary one is the Where Are You Going guide. We'll touch on that next. And there it shows where you need to order it from if you want to use the phone, or if you want to go right on the website. If you want to use the online version, it's right there on careerbridge.wa.gov, or you can use the hard copies. So I wanted to make sure that you knew you had 2 different options of whatever is the best way for you to implement it. But I had a conversation with the gal there, and I told them about what today's event was and that meeting with all of you. They are so excited about this. So they're ready for your orders if you decide you want to go the hard copy route. So, okay. And it's free, and free is a good thing. It doesn't matter how many you order. Okay, the next section, which is a really important one, and we'll touch on this a little bit more in the next steps, is the program sequence and topic selection. So you saw earlier on, we kind of think of our approach as having those three components, that self-discovery and awareness, that leadership building, and that career. We really think it's important that you touch on all three of those components. However, your time is not infinite. The number of units and lessons is not infinite. So there's going to have to be a little bit of prioritization on your part to identify what you think may be, for your students, the most relevant. We are giving you, and I will admit this up front, more than you probably will be able to use. But that's okay. So use your best judgment, and here's the way I always suggest schools do it, or mentor organizations, and that is, do a 20,000-foot overview of all the pointers in the book and rank them A, B, C. And A is a need to, B is a nice to, C is a Okay, so you already have done that. You already can do the same kind of concept with the student guide. Now there are fewer lessons, there are about 50 or so lessons. Similar type of thing. You'll be able to get the feedback because you've already gone through the book and you've kind of ranked ordered those pointers A, B, C. You want to do the same thing with the student guide. But the idea is knowing your students and what their needs are, knowing what the ideal program vision is. What are, in your view, your professional views, the most important lessons you want to impart to your students? And again, really important to sample in each of the different areas. So we're giving you more. Don't feel the least bit concerned that you're not covering everything. It's impossible. But at the same time, I think knowing the other types of resources you might be using as well, some of these may just fit a little bit better than others and stuff. So anyway, there will be a prioritization approach that you want to do, and then basically build a calendar of what lessons I want to include, each step of the way. So there will be that process, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Author suggestions, we're going to touch on this in a slide shortly, but we developed a list of some teaching tips that we have found just bring this course to life. And obviously the most important is giving these kids a vision and giving them strategies for success. Sharing your stories, things like that are hugely valuable to get them on that pathway. But there are any number of tips that we are suggesting here that I think will really go a long way for your students to make the most out of the course that you have. For the rest of the training manual, what we have are the different modules. And again, this is optional. You may want to do a more traditional approach where you go through the book chapter by chapter. Feel free to do that, but what we wanted to do is to give you a little bit of a different flavor, because a lot of what I wish I knew at 18, and we've got a chapter on love and family, which is basically like dating and marriage and things like that. Well, that may, in the grand scheme of things, not be among the most important lesson areas to cover. So what we tried to do is to select out the themes that we really felt were going to be the most important for your students within a program with the objectives of a JWG. So you saw earlier that slide that had the leadership modules. So we laid those out, and then we have our 4 career selection and advancement modules. We also have a couple that we wanted to mention that are in the student guide and the book that you may want to include in this. And one of them has to do with post-secondary academics, helping students to understand how the college arena academically is different than the high school arena, the 3.8 to the 2.8 to the 4.0, same person, same brain, but needing to learn the differences. I developed a chapter with a study method that is just killer. But also some other insights to help students understand just how different that academic environment is. The next one is on financial literacy, which, as you know, is really my biggest background for all those years. We have a whole chapter devoted to financial literacy. And what we're sharing in here is, to the extent you have room, may not hurt to incorporate a couple of lessons involving especially managing a budget, and we've got some lessons here for that. Again, I'm not presuming you have the bandwidth to actually be able to cover these types of topics, but we wanted to make sure that you were aware of them. Okay, so let's go on page 9, and what we're going to do here is to just give you a sample of a module for building vision in your students, which is going back to that pathway to destiny. I think vision was kind of that middle box that we think is really important, giving students that motivation to think of their life in a more strategic way. So what I've done for each of these modules, I love quotes, and where possible we put quotes in our books. For every one of these modules, I found some wonderful, wonderful quotes that people much smarter than I, and in many cases our dad, said, and so it worked back then and it still applies today. Washington Irving, great minds have purposes, others have wishes. Going back to that, what's the difference between a vision and a reality? It's intentionality and stuff. And Oprah, love it. So we picked ones from all different areas. In the page before, you'll notice a little Dr. Seuss made its way in on the self-awareness module. So we're giving you some quotes to kind of lighten it, to give the students that starter a little bit of an overview of what vision is and what do we want to thematically impart to our students. Then what we do is we identify where in the What I Wish I Knew at 18 book are there pointers that relate to building vision. So in this particular case, discover your purpose and inspiration, build a living legacy, and don't define success by riches are the 3 pointers from the book that build vision. Okay? Now you'll notice that only 2 out of the 3 were italicized. And as Arlen mentioned earlier, the italicized ones are where there is a lesson in the student guide. The one that's Build a Living Legacy, if you go through the book and you say, ooh, I really like that one, there isn't a lesson, I still want my students to read it, have at it. They're only a page or 2 in length. But anyway, this gives you that roadmap of where do I find the content in our resources to build this leadership quality. Okay? And then what I've done is I've added some additional suggestions over and above. So you'll want to read through this, you'll want to make notes, think about yourself, and share how you developed your vision. Whether you're doing today, what you thought you would be doing back, when you were their age, and things like that. So we just give some additional suggestions. Sometimes there are videos. Sometimes they're just other resources and suggestions, but basically when it comes to the curriculum itself, the way we're suggesting it is that you approach it in a leadership module area, so that at the end of the day, after the students have gone through this, they understand what having a great vision for life looks like. Most of them won't by that time, and I came from a wonderful family, and I didn't have any vision like what we're imparting, and I know I would have benefited from it. So that's the general concept, and you'll notice as you work your way through, for all of those leadership qualities and that are reflected in these modules, we have different suggestions. Probably the one I would suggest maybe the most needed and content rich is the personal brand one, because going back to all of these qualities that the employers are looking for, character qualities, things like that, you will notice most of what's in the personal brand module will come from the character chapter of What I Wish I Knew at 18. So that stands to reason. And if you keep working your way through, we'll eventually get to the career section. So on page 19, we have an overview of the entire career section of our lessons, and again, reinforcing some of the messages that I shared a little bit earlier in those 4 stages of exploring and qualifying, marketing, and excelling. So we kind of tee that up as a refresher. And then what we do is we start off with our exploring module. And you will notice the career modules in the training manual are much more extensive. Because we only have those 4 themes, but there's a lot involved when it comes to things like career exploration. So similar type of thing, a great quote by Steve Jobs, by the way. Again, giving students that perspective of how great leaders viewed something as important as careers, so encouraging them to take it really seriously. And then again, suggesting here are the lessons that relate to that particular module, and we have another extended set of suggestions. So here is where we talk about the Where Are You Going guide, which I'm going to touch on next as soon as we get through the training manual here. But that guide, and you may have other alternative approaches, I'm just saying that this is something that really is helpful. That's a very important one. The personal balance sheet assignment, that feeds in also to this, because part of our exploration is understanding, our interests and things like that. Encouraging your students to become career aware and curious. Encouraging them, now I'm on page 21, familiarizing your students with the career-based websites that are out there. So what is out there? Well, we've got several ones that are listed here. The Career Bridge one is a good one. Career Builders, we have a good friend who works there. Indeed.com, those are really good. And again, you probably all know this, and I don't know for sure, so I'm kind of erring on the side of just mentioning it in case. But I know our kids used Indeed a ton, and it was a wonderful site. So back to this whole mindset of the job offers will not come to you, you need to go after them. This is a really important thing. Inviting guest speakers, oh man, this is such a great course to bring in folks who are in different career areas and college, career counselors, other people to provide that perspective. Another one, the second to the last point, I just emphasize, reminding the students that there are any number of careers that would suit them. Again, I think so many students are getting so stressed out, they need to know that exact one, and it's really not the case. But again, this is really more about the process. Now we get into qualifying, and so we've got a couple of, you can see I like Dr. Seuss, he's made it in there again. But like Marva Collins, success doesn't come to you, you go for it. And that's what I really hope all of your students leave their course feeling really motivated, that they've got a vision, they have opportunities, and so forth. And so you'll see in the whole qualifying area, again, the Where Are You Going guide has a lot of great material in there on the qualification process. Same thing, Career Bridge. It goes into what are the educational requirements, what kind of work experience are required, what kind of money is potentially available, what's the demand outlook looking like, and so forth. So,
Career Cruiser does that.
So it's, sorry?
Career Cruiser.
Career Cruiser, and there are tons.
That was a good one.
Career is good.
Great.
That's the one we used.
Okay. So good stuff. And again, once they have an idea of some different careers, a great assignment is having them go and interview someone who's in that job. What did they learn? What's a day in the job like? How did that change their way of thinking, etc. This is a great time in the qualifying area to reinforce the importance of soft skills. As part of that qualification process is going to be the soft skills that you represent through your history and in that interview. And we saw the difference between one that could had the soft skills and who didn't. Okay, so anyway, then we get into the marketing section. You'll notice here, this is probably the most extensive. And again, I think in part because it's the area that is maybe a real unnatural thing for a lot of students is just understanding how do I market myself? What does a good resume look like? What does a good cover letter look like? What does a good interview look like? Things like that. And so you'll see a whole slew of different suggestions on that. And here again, just to reinforce, the opportunity for you to put your students in the leadership position. So when I did the How to Be an MVP Employee talk, I invited some students to come up and we pretended that they were the store manager of a coffee shop and they had to recruit a new barista. And so you put them in the leadership position. So what is it that you're going to look for? Because your bonus is at stake. You're being paid based upon the success of this store. So what are you going to be looking for in your employees? Because they are directly going to impact your success. It's a mind shift for these students. And the more they can see themselves in a leadership role, that's where motivation can really come through in a big way. And so lots of stuff in here on interviewing. Again, there's also some things in some of these other websites as well that were suggested. But practice helping students understand the likely questions they're going to get in an interview. And one of which is, why are you the best person for this job? I've got 150 applicants I'm going through. Okay, you better have a good answer to that question. And so the more they can anticipate questions in an interview, the better off they're going to be, because a lot of that interviewing is really great preparation. Okay, and then the follow-up, we talked about that. And then finally, the module on career selection and advancement, excelling. So what does it take to be that MVP? And we touched on that earlier. So anyway, this particular document, this training manual, will hopefully take a lot of content and bucketize it in a way that's pretty easy to work with. It'll take a little bit of doing, but we wanted to make this as user-friendly as we could. The last thing I wanted to mention too is there was a lesson that we didn't use in edition 2 that we used in edition 1. And so you'll notice on page 29 that we took the content and added that to the training manual. So that's what we have here. It's just kind of an overview document to help provide you the direction. I hope it's something that will make the process efficient for you. And then what I wanted to touch on next was just briefly the where are you going. And again, you may have other ways of doing the career exploration. The career bridge / where are you going approach has some really good, just very easy to answer questions. And from those questions will come up identifying different industries that are of interest, and what are some different positions within those industries, and then what are the types of qualifications. And I had students do this in 8th grade and they loved it. And I did it for myself. I didn't get any amazing insights for me, but my daughter-in-law did. And I'm going to just share this with you because this is the kind of light bulb going off situation. She was working in a job where her growth potential was limited. And I just said, Stevie, I see you as offering so much more than what you're able to do here. What are some other career ideas? And she mentioned a couple. I said, yeah, I understand those. I said, but why don't you do this assessment? Let's just for the heck of it see what comes through. So she goes through this assessment, and the number one, like by a large margin, that came through was education and training. I said, Stevie, I can see you totally in an education and training role. And she was working in a bank, doing client work and stuff. I could just see that. Anyway, she starts looking for, using Indeed and other places to find, what's out there in education and training. And she wound up about 5 weeks ago landing an amazing corporate training position at World Vision, and just did 9 days in Thailand. Training. It's like, this is really personal. This stuff we want your students to just really get an idea of what's out there. And so, again, whatever way you go about doing it, this is one option. We really got some good value out of that. I know the students enjoyed it. And again, there are some other really good things in here regarding, depending upon what kind of college or any post-secondary training you need. Here are some great websites that are available. Here are some interview tips. Here are some other types of tips for resume writing and things like this. So anyway, free from Washington State. $0.0, which is a good. Yeah. So I guess let me just see where we're at. We're gonna do. Yeah. Would you like a break now?
Yeah, let's call for cookies.
Okay. Why don't we do a break now, and then we just have a few more slides to go through. So let's reconvene at 4-ish if we can.